Okay, so welcome to the third of the three Let's Plays that we're going to do about our student work. So my name's Dave Millard. I'm sat here with Charlie Hargood and Ricky Prince, and we're going to be looking at the work done in COMP3218, Game Design and Development at University of Southampton. Charlie, do you want to say a little bit about what the students were doing for this assignment?
Sure. So the assignment here was to create an interactive game version of one of three fairy tales that we offer to the students. Three Billy Goats Gruff, Little Red Riding Hood, or Hansel and Gretel. And at the heart of the specification for this course was we really wanted the students to create a game that had a story engine at the centre of it that was able to manage and deal with different narrative events.
Cool, so this is all about narrative, and yeah, looking forward to seeing what the last batch have got in store for us.
Okay, so our first one is called Brave Goats, we think. It might be called Three Billy Goats. It has two names. Maybe one's a subtitle.
So we haven't had that many about the Three Billy Goats.
Indeed, it was the least popular of the fairy tales. Right, here we go. Right.
Okay, here we are. Oh no, pray don't take me, I'm too old. Okay.
Yeah. Billy Goat Gruff comes.
Kind of
He's
the
much
core
bigger.
bit.
No,
Right, fair enough.
Oh no, don't take me. Wait a little till the big Billy Goat Gruff comes. He's much bigger. No, I'm going to gobble you up. Make your choice, surrender or fight.
Fine. Okay. So they've used the whole thing as a premise.
Yeah, indeed. So we've got the story and essentially a sort of choose your own text adventure.
Okay.
All right.
So
now we've got a game.
Collect the power. So we've got like a little mini game where you have to collect the
Power.
What do I do to collect
coins?
It looks like you're supposed to move over it, but
I presume so.
And there's no the control instruction on the left there doesn't say anything other than
no.
So
Can I click on them?
Seems unlikely.
Okay. I thought you just. So I played this in the expo and I thought you just went over them.
Yeah, it looks like we may have a bug in the submitted
maybe?
version there. I suspect, unfortunately. Haha.
Let's see.
Nothing seems to be happening, does it?
No, I think yeah, it's got to be a code.
I can't even move as quick as the things. There's not like it's
no.
a timing thing.
Okay, that's a shame.
Well, we could go back and try the other choice.
Go back and try the other choice at the very least.
So I have a feeling that the other choice is quite short. Let's give it a go.
But we might as well play through that choice.
Let's go and have a look.
We could also try loading it in in Unity.
Yep.
Yeah, that's the other possibility.
Okay, so that's another go, and this time we'll make the other choice.
So we've got the other ones, and we're just
yeah. I thought that was what happened.
Okay, fine. So it's not a choice. Okay.
Yeah. So basically, when I played this in the expo, yeah, you essentially have this mini game where you collect power, and yeah, the other choice was instant death.
What happens when you get?
I'm trying to remember if there's anything else beyond this.
Do you want to have a go and see?
I think let's have a look at Unity and see what we can figure out what's going on.
So assuming, this is perhaps dangerous, but I'm going to make an assumption here, which is that you get sufficient coins, and then it gives you another scene of cutscene saying, "Congratulations, you've overcome the wolf or the troll, whatever it is." If that is the case, then I think we can still discuss the game in light of that as a possibility. Now,
so you got result win.
Yeah, indeed. Hang on, let's have a look. See if that Ricky's got it up in Unity. See if it's any better here.
Fight with wolf.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's just the build version. That's fine. We can.
Here we go.
Do this. Okay, so we're collecting some coiny power. DDs.
Is there a timer? Or I just
doesn't appear to be.
It looks like just get all of them.
You got stronger. Get ready to fight.
Right.
I think it. Congratulations, you win.
Yeah,
that's
right.
it.
As suspected. Fine. Okay, so that's that then. So there isn't really what I would normally consider a story engine there. There's a couple of things that they've I guess that are events within the game that nearly begin to constitute a story engine.
Yeah.
Things like picking up that an event in the game has done something and presenting some text, such as when you collect enough coins, and presenting the user with a choice, so that presumably there's some sort of small state engine under there. But it's not really what we would consider the modelling of narrative events.
When we introduced this, we talked about the way that narrative can frame a game, right? And that is what they've done here. So they've used the story to frame the game, right?
Yeah.
So they've got a premise, and actually a lot of the games design literature talks about using narrative, purely for that, probably because they're not being particularly ambitious about what you can do with narrative. And it works reasonably well. So there's a reason why you should be collecting the coins. It tells you a little bit of the story beforehand, a little bit of the story afterwards. But you're right, it doesn't really do what we asked them to do in the coursework spec. It doesn't really have a story engine. It doesn't really have any kind of integration between the story and the mechanics of the game.
Sure.
We asked them to think about things like player agency, and there's clearly none of that in here.
Indeed.
So I think it's quite a superficial attempt to use narrative in order to frame a game. Yeah. And to be honest, it's nothing more than that, is it?
No, indeed. There's also some other things that we can talk about with regards to the technique and storytelling in this game. There's not really any notion of pacing there. It starts at one level and continues throughout. You might argue that then the game part, the interactive part, might be an opportunity in order to build the tension, in order to do a little bit of energy into the pacing. But actually, that sort of drifting around, picking up the coins is pretty.
How would you do that mechanically? Like a timer or something like that? Something to build some challenge or tension?
To be honest, you know what? I mean, there's a number of different ways that you could have gone about this game, okay? But let's say, okay, we're definitely going to make this Three Billy Goats graph game in this particular form and in this particular way. Then what you might have done is done that power gathering mechanism 3 times, one for each of the goats, made the old goat too slow to collect enough coins, made the small goat too slow to collect, too small for some reason in order to collect enough coins. Okay, and then have it get bigger and faster each time, and then the big go collect more. I still think that would have had a lot of problems. I don't think that's a perfect answer in any way, but that might have introduced a bit of pacing into the game, and would have used the mechanics in order to tell a story. Whereas they're not doing that.
That's the most obvious thing, is to use the different characteristics of the 3 Billy Goats, basically,
to experience that puzzle and
different mechanical. I definitely discussed that idea with one of the groups. I can't remember if it was this group or one of the other.
Sure. So this is the thing. It's just I don't think they've really experienced the mechanics in any way. Differently there. So yeah, I think.
I think we ought to move on to the next one. But I mean, a nice attempt to frame the game, but really should have done more. I think to explore the narrative bits.
Yes. Moving on.
So this is Little Red Friendlyhood.
Okay, let's have a look.
Okay, right then.
Come, little red cap. Here is a piece of cake and a bottle of wine. Take them to your grandmother. She is ill and weak, and they will do her good.
Gotcha, the flowers are talking. I thought that was a voice from inside the house.
Yeah, I did. So you're controlling the red flower, is it?
I'm moving the red flower, yeah.
Set out before it gets hot, and when you're going, walk nicely and quietly, and do not run off the path. Okay, fine. Alright, can you run off the path? Can you go up and down?
I feel like, I can go up and down.
Okay.
I feel like I can't get up far away because I miss all the text.
I will take great care. Oh, thank goodness it's sped up.
Right.
So it purposely was slowing you down so you can see the text.
Yeah. Do not get killed.
Do not get anyone killed or anything. The woods see, the woods remember.
Okay, so this is a little bit of internal narrative.
Nice.
Another little flower here. Alright, yeah, cool. Oh, that's a wolf. Okay. Just something to spot. I mean, although obviously you've got the dialogue choices you're doing here, quite like the idea that you can still sort of move around and things while you're having the conversation. Like keeps the game interactive. It doesn't break the flow of control, which we talked about in class. And other problems with cutscenes.
Wrong choice.
It's like the text version of Rick Dangerous. The slightest wrong move and you're dead.
Yeah.
Okay. Fine.
So that's so I quite like that. I think we need to play a little bit more in order to understand the effect of the story engine that's going here. They're presenting a little bit of choice there for a second. Obviously, as well, it was triggering story events by motion in the game.
I was going to say, do those things come up as you get near them? So as
that seems to be just coming up over time.
This one, that one's timed,
but the other ones, if you move right,
it was where you position in game. It looked like. So I guess actually the way to test that is now rush through the woods as quickly as possible and see if they will just pop up quickly afterwards. Right, yeah. This is clearly still timed. So, yeah, pretty sure that's positional.
Yeah, it looks positional.
Yeah, the other ones aren't popping up, so it's not time based on a trigger.
Okay, cool. Listening to game events and triggering story elements. I mean, an extremely simplistic way. Okay, let's not stress that this is this is
been
quite
chased by
the wolf. That's the wolf.
Yeah,
that's
the wolf.
Run away. What have you got in that basket? Okay, wine. Okay. That smells delicious.
Right.
That's quite cute.
Did you see that, Charlie?
Yeah.
Where does your grandmother live?
In a house.
Well, which one should we go for?
I don't know.
A good course.
I feel like I'm being drawn to this one for some reason.
Yeah, the naturals are just below you. Surely you must know it.
This one. We don't want to give away too much information.
Oh, I don't know. I'm worried we're going to get eaten.
I'm wondering if actually this is like almost quizzing you on the fairy tale. It wants you to say what the line is from the fairy tale. And,
really?
Yeah.
Nothing happened. Yeah.
Okay.
No, still being chased.
Still following you.
Oh, which way?
Okay. He hasn't responded. So pick a route, I guess. And we'll see
It's funny, isn't it? It doesn't really. Oh, what's that?
Little tombstone.
Little Red Riding Hood, who is cautious, perhaps too much.
Okay.
Yes. So I played this in the game, or someone showed me. That was our previous life. That was us when we died.
So when you die, that's very clever. Okay.
Oh, that's quite cute.
Nice one. So I think what we are seeing here. I mean, obviously it's a little bit simple because there's only a small coursework with a small game. But what we are seeing here is a story engine in action, right?
Yeah.
So it's taking care. And now it's bugged out. I think that's
bug. All right. Yeah, no, I agree. I think kind of mechanically there are there are some issues and with the general sort of design of what you're doing.
Yeah.
But you're right that there is a story engine. It is interacting with the game.
Yeah.
The whole point of the story engine was that it essentially should have sort of two sets of inputs and outputs. It should be talking to the player. And in this case, we're seeing that in the terms of the pop-ups and the dialogue, and a lot of the stories we've seen have done that. But the other thing it should be doing is it should be talking to the game engine. It should be making changes to the game engine, and vice versa, getting inputs to the game engine.
Precisely, and I think it is doing it. It is doing it.
The location elements coming in. You've got the kind of the where you died or how you died is changing the atmosphere.
Indeed,
it's only in little ways.
It's only in little ways, but that's fine, right? It's only a small coursework, right?
Yes.
And what they've done is they've picked up on simple ways in order to communicate between the two, and they've demonstrated it. So bravo, well done.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's think about.
I would have liked them to have picked a wolf.
Artistic
thing. I mean, even I'm sure there must have been wolves on the asset store that they could have.
Well, I don't know. Maybe this is but this could be. I mean, we're not going to go into aesthetics too much, right? But it could be a deliberate stylistic choice, right? To keep things consistently as well throughout. But bit of a stretch, but but anyway, talking about other things. Mechanics as narrative, I don't really necessarily see much here about them using the mechanics in necessarily to drive the story.
No, not really.
It's I mean, it's about motion, but
Let's just run on, Ricky.
It is presenting the player with semi-meaningful choice, in that you have these choices. So they've done a little bit of agency there, but I'm not so sure if they're necessarily managing agency completely on the grounds that some of the choices are sort of non-choices because they just kill you immediately.
Yes, that is a problem, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Although I quite like, what I'm wondering here is, I'm wondering whether what this choice makes. This is a mechanical choice, right? You've got these dialogue choices.
Pick the one on the right. Okay.
So if you keep on going up to the right, because effectively you've got this mechanical choice, which is which route do you go. As well as the dialogue choices.
True.
And I'm wondering whether that's meaningful.
Yeah.
So the other way was a puzzle about jumping over the
bridge is broken. I'll have to find another way.
Right. Go back and do your.
All right. So it's exploration.
Do you recognise who was involved in the arch?
Oh god, it's Catbridge. Yeah, God, the island's the same as well. They've reused the same assets, but that's fine. So let's talk a little bit while Ricky's making his path over to the puzzle about some of the other aspects.
Yeah, well, that's a technique.
There isn't a lot of characterisation necessarily going on here. I don't really necessarily know who the protagonist is or how they've They've formalised
No.
the antagonist. I guess the antagonist is a narratological one, but they haven't really done a lot to make us relate to them. And like you say, the choice of visuals by choosing to use flowers, I guess, makes them increasingly unrelatable. Oh, there's another route.
There's some flowers.
Oh, right.
You missed that bit of the narrative.
Sorry.
As we walked near it, the wolf was like, "Hey, look, there's some flowers over there. Why don't you get some flowers for your
Jolly good.
grandmother?"
So let me talk a little bit about.
Grandmother
So they have sort of used the 3x structure, though. They've made use of that, right? There is a pose of the dramatic question. It's obvious what you're motivated to do at the start, okay?
Yeah.
And now you're engaging in a series of small trials and acquiring means in order to solve the problem. So that's that makes a lot of sense. Regards to pacing, I think they've done. They've done a very sort of simple approach to pacing, in that the pacing of the game is increasing by virtue of the fact that they're adding more elements to the game and there's more going on. Nice to see there's a.
Cool. Same message for both. I was told there would be different messages.
Okay, so maybe
perhaps you.
I mean, it's
I died in the water. That
well, that's
could have
true.
been very good.
Yeah.
You're hesitant, Rick. You should have gone for it.
Maybe.
All right, let's have one more crack at this. Let's see if we can get
see if we can get this to see a little bit more.
Space bar between these stepping stones.
I was going to say, what are you doing about this?
I couldn't see it because the pop-up was over the top.
So I think it's fair to say that there are definitely elements of the kind of the narrative story engine thing going on here, but actually we also should be looking at this as a game. And as a game, there are obviously some problems. Not only is there some bugs here, but also there's some of those sort of information problems to do with you say the pop-up getting in the way of what you were doing, and kind of the display problems getting in the way. The controls aren't particularly nice to use. So I think mechanically it could have done a lot of work. But respect them
just polish.
Indeed,
yeah,
I mean, I'm quite impressed by their story engine. They haven't made use of a lot of techniques, although that said, they have done well to take a text-heavy game and try and reduce the impact of that text by keeping the text interactive, allowing you to move around during the text in order not to break things up.
Yeah, that works quite well.
That's a nice use of technique there, but I would have liked to have seen a bit more on characterization use of pacing. Yeah. Okay, so let's
go on to the next game.
Yeah.
Okay, this next game is Return Home.
Okay, so it's nice to have one that's not just called Hansel and Gretel or Little Red Riding Hood. So Return Home.
That's a nice start screen.
That's a nice graphic. Yeah.
So I played this one during the expo, and they gave it a different name. They called it The Tale of Red Riding Hood, but apparently not. Fine.
So,
no, we saw that earlier.
She's the one who keeps talking.
Oh, yes.
Okay, and stop calling her mum already. All right. So they're having a little discussion. So it's starting right in the middle.
It is. It's in media res, and they did call it Return Home. Ricky's right. Correct. So yes. The idea of this one is it's in a way, actually, there's some of the other Hansel and Gretel games that we've seen so far. It's a sort of a wander through the wood with various sort of side quests and events that go on, and that's actually a really nice thing to do with this this coursework, because it allows you to show off the story, but also that branches to the narrative and various other sort of things that your story engine might support. So you've got the breadcrumbs and
flowers up there.
Yeah, there's flowers up there as well. So this is food. So you've got a hunger bar, right? You need to collect berries, otherwise you'll starve to death. My understanding, if I recall correctly, is that you can just follow the rocks and you'll probably just get to the end. But if you explore, but the food,
I find it quite hard to read the text.
Yeah, the text could be better.
And also, so how do you know what you've just told us there? So we need to collect the food unless we'll starve to death.
Did they not say it in the text of the game?
I think no, she said I'm hungry. Did she say?
Maybe it wasn't explicit. Yeah, but
Charlie's played this before.
One of the interesting things, but I was told that by the authors, right? Maybe it wasn't immediately clear by the game. Okay, one of the things that I found interesting by this is that you could just follow the breadcrumbs, but the need for food makes you explore into the forest, which then also makes you stumble across story elements. Okay, so I found another.
Did you hear that? So I didn't spot any breadcrumbs. Have you seen?
They were back there.
Oh, okay.
They didn't look very much like breadcrumbs. They looked more like stones.
Well, that's the other
maybe
the story, isn't it? So they put the breadcrumbs down first, and they get eaten by a bird, so they put pebbles down.
It was a series of markers, yeah. Sure.
Got you.
So fine.
People finally.
Do
you have food? Ah. So it's someone in the same
position, yeah.
same position as us. All right then.
Yeah, and now you have a choice.
Ooh. Ask about his story. I said you had a sister, where is she now? Oh no. They've taken a bit of a dark angle on Hansel and Gretel as well.
Monster with powerful magic is in the forest. Will get in your mind and bend you to its will. Okay, this is getting more interesting.
Yeah. It's interesting. They're ploughing the debts a little bit. They're giving it a little bit of background. One of the interesting things what they've done here is because the game started using immediate res, obviously in the middle of the action where they're lost, they're now backfilling Act 1 through the dialogue and text. It's a classic way of solving that problem in immediate res, right? A little bit of analepsis in order to do that goes a long way. Okay, so good use of storytelling technique there.
Yep.
Quite a lot of text though.
It is. Yeah.
It is. So yeah, I'm not sure of their information density. I think they could have found simpler and quicker ways to handle this.
But it is actually a story.
It is a story. It is
a real story, right? So
it's
we're finding out about this kid. There's now 3 of us. I'm now getting a horrible feeling that we're going to be gathering up some massive posse of berry munching children.
Yeah, indeed. Well, look, you may have noticed now that he's joined you, your food bar goes down quicker.
Oh no.
Feed a third person. So these are the pebbles.
Are those flowers or are they? Oh no, those are.
It's just those things. The berries always look the same.
Yeah, these are the pebbles, Dave.
So I mean, actually, that's not a bad mechanic, is it? That you've got to zip around and find
food. Yeah. It's a good way of drawing you off the path in order to make you sort of find the story and things.
And you're very aware of it. You're going down. You really need to find some berries.
He's at it.
I know,
there's berries. Go get the berries. I'm over there. Yeah. So it's kind of working.
Yeah. And to be honest with you, I think there's something we can talk about here with pacing as well, because the natural.
That's a house, isn't it?
You were just about to die then as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, it keeps momentum
because you start with a full bar, right, which keeps the stress low to begin with.
Yeah.
But then as you move on, your starting resource effectively diminishes, and that raises the tension.
And you end up living on the food from each thing as you collect it, essentially. So
this is you're finding out about your stepmother leaving you to starve in the forest. Okay, you're overhearing the conversation between her and the witch, basically. So yeah, this is a slight diversion from the original fairy tale. I think in this one it's deliberate collusion between the witch and
but that's quite nice.
But it's nice because again it gives a little bit of background to the antagonists here. They're constructing a little bit more characterization.
Let's not go near that house.
Yeah.
And we have to, don't we?
And the mechanics kind of do follow. You know, the whole pursuing the maze.
Yeah.
Do we all die or? Oh yeah, I see. There's a.
You run out of food, mate. So what is the consequence of running out of food?
It's interesting, actually. I think Ricky may have found a bug in the game by dying mid-cutscene.
You're no longer, your food bar's not going up anymore.
And it's not going down. It's clearly in negative numbers. Yeah, so I think and also that conversation now won't end. Okay. Is it finally?
Game over.
Because you ended the conversation, Rick. I think that's a small and largely forgivable bug, I think. There's a lot going on there. It's quite a rich game.
And I quite like that. I mean, I like the fact there is actually a genuine story.
Sure.
I like the use of techniques is pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of the story engine, there's clearly elements to dialogue scattered around the game world, and again that's one of the classic ways that you can deliver narrative in the game is you kind of you're building up this mosaic, you're discovering pieces as you go.
Yes, right. It's the puzzle pieces method, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I think the kind of the mechanics as metaphor could be stronger, but they're thematic.
Indeed. But there is something there, right? I mean, also they've taken part of the story, which is we need to find food and turn it into a mechanic in order to tell that bit of the story a little bit more.
And the whole thing about following the pebbles and like you said, that tension between. I mean, so we talked about this. We talked about this in some of the other videos about making choices, that you have to make a meaningful choice. And here your choice is to do with progression versus survival, effectively.
Yes.
And you're constantly having to balance those two things.
And this
works quite well.
This is the thing as well. It is a meaningful choice because you could make either one of those choices and keep playing the game, right? You can wander around about the child and he won't help you. So one of the things you didn't get to see it there, but had you not died of starvation and look at the witch, okay, if you approach the house by yourselves, you're in trouble. But with the help of that additional kid, you're able to steal some food from the witch's house and get some supplies.
So it has real
impact on the story as well.
I think it's rather nice. Actually.
So that's I think they've made really good use of a story engine here, right? The story engine is quite elegant. Talk about the mechanics of metaphor, maybe not a full blown usage, but they've made a nod to the thematics. They made some use of it too. I also think there's so I know that they had a lot of very meaningful branches in this game. At the expo, the author was very keen to come up to me and show me some notes which had this massive branching tree of all the different story elements, and it was a big network of different story events that could come up. And
did he send us that?
He never actually sent me the digital version.
So one of the things I think is really nice about that is I think one of the temptations with this piece of work is to do that kind of big branching structure and then forget about the game.
Yes.
Whereas here they have a game. They've got a real game, and the game is integrated with the storytelling.
Precisely, it's integrated. It wasn't just text make choices. Okay, what they had was they had a story state machine layered essentially on top of the game, which is what they're progressing through, and that's exactly what we wanted.
And it's partly based on the level design. The state machine. It's not necessarily hard coded into their engine. But it's part of, like, depending on where you go. And the mechanics look, and
the controls look good. The mechanics are meaningful.
Sure.
So I think we if we had criticisms, it would be about perhaps the information density and the
sure, exactly. So I think the systematic side of this, the story engine, the dealing with agency, very much meaningful, and the use of mechanics is very good here. The technique side, has a few more weaknesses because there is that sort of overly reliance on text, that feels quite heavy and burdensome. The information density doesn't feel very good there. But they did make good use of analysis in order to conquer the immediate res and make use of that in order to get their pacing out. The pacing feels correct. Yes. So it's they're doing well. I think we should move on.
Yeah, no, good. Well done. Good job.
Very good game. Yeah.
This is Billy and the Three Horses.
Okay,
so I played this one at the Express. It's based on Billy Goat's Gruff, but instead of goats, it's a horse. Okay, so what they've got is essentially they've got this classic sort of scroll. I would almost call it a side scroll, but it's not a side scroll; it's a vertical scroll game here with 3 levels, and each of the levels represents one each of the goats. Okay, so the small goat needs to eat food in order to get bigger, and then the next goat gets attacked by the troll. Now, one of the things they said, there's a bug in the submitted version here which causes the troll not to appear at the top and throwing these little fireballs at you.
Is the text meant to display a bit slower?
I think it is, yeah. And it's also probably not supposed to flicker like that. And in the expo it wasn't, but I guess that's.
Can we give a go and run it in Unity? Let's see if we can get it in its glory.
Like I say, they told me that this was a bug in the submitted version.
So you think it's actually...
So I think it's actually just that way, but let's have a go. So just to talk you through some of the other things here. So the idea is the small goat needs to eat food, okay?
Yeah.
The next goat needs to eat food and dodge attacks, and then the third goat needs to eat food, dodge attacks, and deliver attacks. Okay?
So that's quite nice. That's a nice progression of the characters.
And it also increases the drama a bit. However, it is still quite a simplistic game here, and I'm not sure that these 3 levels, one after the other, they just have these preset and necessarily quantify a story engine. It's one of these things we've talked about before, about the difference between a story engine and a game engine. These are 3 levels within a game, rather than necessarily responding entirely. So the text is a bit better there. The troll's still not appearing.
It looks to me like they've got their debug text set on or something.
Yeah, maybe.
You've got kind of,
So here you go. Oh, now the troll's appeared, actually. There he is at the end, at the top there.
I think...
So now you need to attack. He told you there how to attack, Ricky. I don't know if you...
Did you catch it? Was it?
No, I didn't see it.
No idea.
Space, control...
Oh, I accidentally pressed play. I wondered if it was a mouse click.
Yeah, it should say. So the idea is that they've done a bit of characterization there, but like I say, a story engine I think really needs to be able to handle a variety of narrative events and deliver them to the player based on things.
I think what it shows you is that you can
scenes.
That they are trying to tell a story with the game, and they have actually got they've picked up some things from the story. This idea of the 3 goats and the 3 different, again, it's that thing about the goats having different abilities we talked about as being probably the key thing that you'd seize on. But you're right, it's interesting you can do that and not actually have a story engine.
So the text flickered again there, so I don't know if that's a bug, but also prevented us seeing if there was any instruction about how to shoot. And Ricky's tried a few obvious buttons here, it doesn't seem immediately obvious.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's a shame.
Okay.
So okay.
I'm not sure. So let's think about the game here.
So it's an interesting thing, because I think you're right. I think there is no story engine.
Yeah.
Right? There really isn't. I mean, it's all done through through the progression of levels.
Yeah, sure.
There are definitely narrative elements here. They've definitely based the game on a narrative and built the game around the narrative.
Yeah.
They've actually picked up on the mechanics quite well, but there's clearly there's nothing telling the player information as a result of changing the story state. There's no interaction between the story engine and the game engine, if you like.
I think this is the thing. The game engine is what's king here, right? The story is somewhat more incidental to it.
I mean, I guess you could argue that the three goats automatically give you a 3-act structure or something.
Yes, I guess so. Okay. On that note, then, Dave, I will notion that unfortunately, I don't think these three goats necessarily fulfil the needs of the 3-act structure. Right?
Yeah.
They're all roughly the same in terms of narrative terms. I know the mechanics are changed.
Yeah.
There's no serious motivating point at the start. There's no notion of the acquisition of means or the
things. Something.
I know, but that's true of all 3 acts rather than just the second act. They haven't really used the acts for what they're doing. There is 3 bits to the story. That doesn't mean you're following a story arc.
Perhaps if the goats had been, perhaps if each goat was using the things that the previous goat had collected.
Yes, sure, indeed.
Kind of building up momentum, so that when you get to the end and you get to fight the troll.
Yeah.
And I mean that idea of the troll as a kind of antagonist, as it has kind of been.
So he's clearly a mechanical antagonist. But the thing with the mechanical antagonist is they're supposed to look semi-visually impressive, so you beat them. He's invisible for most of the game, and then appears very small at the end and doesn't. I appreciate the what is needed is a good mechanical antagonist, and they've tried to go for that. But I don't think they've necessarily done what needs to be constructed for a mechanical antagonist. And the protagonist may as well be characterless, as far as I'm concerned.
So Ricky, what's it like to actually play the control and everything? Is it kind of
collection is fine. Like the controls are okay. Dodging the things that are being shot by the troll is tricky because there's too much in the way of everything else. Like the coin, I think they're coins that are dropping.
It's supposed to be food, I think. But
the food and the fireballs are very much like in the way of each other, and there's not really enough space to see it to see what you're trying to do. And I have no idea what I'm trying to do to the troll. Like there was no.
Indeed, like I say, because I spoke to the authors in the expo, I know that you're supposed to in the 3rd act shoot the troll and you do enough damage to it and you win.
Yeah. But no idea how to shoot.
But I didn't. Yeah, they were playing it. They didn't tell me the control.
There's no information about health either, so there's no. Yeah. I have no idea how many times I've been hit.
Again, I mean, I may be incorrect, but I seem to remember them saying something else, that maybe there was a bug with the shooting the troll thing. They may just not have got around to finishing. I know that was the intention, but whether it was actually.
So anyway. I think, but even if this game was running as it was intended
smoothly, it's still.
I think we're still missing a really crucial part.
We're still mostly absent a story engine, or if you could argue that the level structure quantifies a story engine, then it's certainly a story engine in the most simplistic of terms.
Yes.
They have sort of used the mechanics in order to tell a story about crossing the bridge and things, so they've done something there. I don't think there's really anything meaningful in order to handle agency. I don't think there's anything meaningful in terms of an act structure. Nor do I think there's anything really meaningful in terms of pacing or character structure. Although arguably the increase of difficulty of the game goes in by adding danger and things like that. So I think does actually quantify to a slight essential.
So I think the core of this is that they've got a game here that not only needs a little bit more development in terms of the game itself, but actually also needs a bit of development in terms of the design and the narrative design, and it needs more sophistication in the narrative choices.
Yes,
which is what we really asked them to do.
Indeed.
Okay,
I think we should move on there. But thanks very much.
Okay, so this game is Grandmother's Dead.
So this is a little bit different than some of the other ones on the grounds that the people who put this together, they really didn't have very much time. They had some other circumstances that were going on. So we're really just expecting a little playable demo really rather than a game. But we thought it was worth having a look at it, giving them some feedback, and I did speak to them during the expo and they had some nice ideas which I think would be worth us talking about.
Okay. So they seem like you've gone for the standard sort of top-down RPG thing here.
Is there any
are you able to interact with any of this?
I don't think so.
No. Okay.
Quite like the hints you're getting from the objects, sort of giving you a sense of
very
the fact that someone's gone, like it's still warm to touch, so the fire's gone out, but they were here at some point.
The controls pop up when you go near something, yeah?
Yeah.
Cool, so what else have you got? Guide to preparing hive nude.
Yeah.
Stone cold.
Bloody chopping board. What's this thing in the middle?
do this interactable. Okay, so obviously the students here haven't had much time. What they've essentially presented to us is a top-down RPG where you can get descriptions from items when you walk close to them. It's quite a nice idea from the point of view of preparation to be able to do it like that, and by doing it this way as well, you're not breaking the flow of the game because the information is sort of coming up as and when you you walk past in a contextual manner. However, due to their own constraints, it's obviously not a game.
So I thought what would be interesting to talk about, and we're going to leave Ricky just wandering about these two rooms here as we talk, right? But I thought they had a really interesting idea for mechanic. So they wanted to do this as kind of like a mystery, figure out what had happened. And the way they were going to do it was by having the player have investigation points that you can spend on the scene.
Nice.
So essentially, you've got all these little clues that come up, and you can choose to kind of look and spend a bit more time investigating each one. But you've only got a certain number of things you can do in order, before your points run out. And there will be mechanisms within the game to top those up as certain stages released. And I thought that was quite a neat,
sounds really fun,
neat idea. Yeah. And it kind of is a way of forcing people, I suppose, or giving people a slightly different playthrough each time, because they're getting a different slice of the story.
From the point of view of the narrative as well, there's the potential for a good use of sort of mechanics as narrative there as well, right? They actually sort of systemize the storytelling process surrounding investigation. Right? There could have been some interesting
and they can reward you for certain bits. And I mean, so my main concern with it was that it didn't feel very thematic. And in a sense, they were doing that on purpose. They'd gone for a kind of a... so I think their idea was that you'd have an overall a narration over the top of this, a bit like the Bastion style narration. Which was actually going to be the protagonist talking back and reflecting on what had happened. So they were definitely going for that kind of noir detective feel. But even so, it just I was basically saying, well, why have you only got a certain number of IP points? Why can't you just go around and look at different things? So I thought it was as a germ of an idea, it was quite nice, but it felt like it needed a bit of refinement. It felt like they need to think about how to weave it into the story a little bit more. And also, talking about mechanics as metaphor, what part of the story are they actually trying to pick up on? When they're doing this with their kind of investigation and so on. So for me, it felt like a cool idea, but perhaps a bit disjointed from the actual narrative itself.
Yeah, nice concept, but unfortunately hasn't quite manifested into a game. But that's just the way these things go sometimes. Yeah. Okay, I think we should probably move on.
Yeah, I think there's not a lot else we can say here. So good start. We understand you didn't have as much time for this one, and it's a shame because I think it would be really nice to have seen what you'd have done with it. It looks like it had real potential.
One for the summer.
Yes.
Okay, so this is Hansel's story.
Okay, so do
you have a look at the about? Oh no, fine.
Too late.
Yeah,
it's gone.
Hard by Great Forest.
No one reads
Poor Alien. So this is Hansel and Gretel's told through aliens.
Fine, cool, nice idea. Cute art as well.
Yeah, it's nice actually. Okay.
So a bit of continuous text to tell story here, but they've illustrated it, but.
Well, I mean, I'm a bit more forgiving of this than you are, because I kind of think that given the reduced time they've got, this would be a little video cutscene. Yeah, I kind of look at this and I think this is a cutscene, right? And they're just telling it through text. I think when you get into the game, if the dialogue is heavy, then that is something they should have fixed.
Okay, yeah, fair enough.
Okay. Tells you the controls, which is always nice.
Press E to search and use stuff. Press space to call your personal spaceship. Escape to pause the game.
Okay.
Nothing's happening.
No. What about if you use the keyboard on the Mac?
Ooh, it's not here, is it? No.
Okay,
that's strange. Do you have to give it focus? It's got focus, surely.
Got focus. No. Okay, so this.
And you're running this within.
Yeah, this is in Unity.
This is running within Unity, so. Well, that's a shame because they showed me this working in the expo. Yeah, it worked absolutely fine. So
yeah, so the build version. But there's another level. I had a look at this in testing, and there's another level after this.
Yeah.
So we might as well wait for the sun to go down.
Does the other level work?
Sort of. It relies on collection in this level. So I think the idea is that you collect what are effectively your breadcrumbs, your metaphorical breadcrumbs,
gloops of food,
in this level, and then you lay them down in the next level. And that happens after the sun goes down.
Yeah.
But we may as well.
It's a shame, isn't it? Because there you are.
Aliens will come to get us.
So as you come to get you. I mean, actually, the art's really nice. I don't know where they got it from, but it's really cute. And awoke the two children.
Set out together on the way to the forest.
Right.
Here we go. So now we can.
Now you can move. It's an adventure. I should press E to hide gloop.
So that's to drop the breadcrumbs. We don't have any breadcrumbs, so.
Okay, so I have to pretend that there's some.
Pretend we're dropping the breadcrumbs.
So one thing that wasn't clear to me when I played this, and we don't have that much time in the expo, but I just couldn't get my head. I couldn't see what actually dropping the gloop did.
No, I mean it's a 1D platformer, so
yeah.
You can only go left or right. So at what point
exactly? So you could drop the gloop. It worked. When they showed it to me in the expo, it worked just fine. Mm-hmm. And you had various obstacles you had to get across, and you occasionally had to call the spaceship and whatever. So, yeah.
Right, that's the parents disappearing.
So the parents have left them. Right, that's the idea.
Okay.
So it does have that whole thing about the game progresses between different stages. Really nice graphic of the house.
Found the gingerbread house.
Okay, with a monster in it, and now the monster chases them. There you go. It does tell you jump over the traps, right? Ooh. So now you've got a little bit of gameplay. But again,
Did picking up the gloop do anything? Like,
not
did it give
really,
you extra lives or something?
Don't think so. So the point being is that they seem to have this. We talk about pacing. They definitely had this element of pacing where you didn't see the first level, but the first level was effectively you just walking on collecting up gloop. Yeah. The second level you're kind of following along, kind of then you get this.
Well, it sort of matches to the 3 extraction.
It does,
right? So the acquisition of means and then resolving of it, and then you could argue the first act is that long cutscene at the beginning to do things. I do think they're relying a little. I mean, I know you're a bit more forgiving, but even in the context of the fact that this could be more of a sort of cutscene, they're relying quite a lot on textual exposure.
Yeah, no, I think once the game is underway, I think all that's fair enough. And also, although we haven't been able to explore it here, it really isn't clear to me what the whole laying of gloop and picking up gloop or whatever it's called is, and what function it serves in the story.
Indeed.
Oh, there we go.
See if there's any different in the build version. No,
still, it's a shame that the boat was.
What was it? Is escape to call the spaceship? Was it?
No, that's to call space to spaceship. E to drop. No.
Well, that's a shame. I don't know why it's not working, but
sadly broken.
But anyway,
okay, so yeah, let's think about this a little bit. So first of all, we have the story engine problem here.
Yes.
Now they've created quite a polished game. It looks beautiful, feels nice, with the exception of the catastrophic bug on the first level, is pretty nice. Put together.
It plays quite nice.
But we did ask for a game with a story engine, and I think this is another one of those games which fails to distinguish between game engine and story engine, and that there is not much that is being modelled in the terms of the narrative.
No, it's all in the layout of the levels, the way that the game flows, and I mean that is so to be absolutely clear, that's perfectly reasonable use of narrative to frame the game, but it's not what we asked them to do.
Indeed, it's perfectly worth noting that there are many very good, successful computer games that don't have story engines.
Yeah, absolutely.
But we asked for a game with a story engine, and this is largely absent of one. It's moving on to the other things that we're thinking about. Mechanics as narrative. Had we maybe seen the gloop collection and dropping, then at least that you could argue that's them picking up on a fundamental part of the story and making the player directly interact with it and play with it.
And that was definitely there, but again, it wasn't clear what function
use it had.
Well, this is what I was going to go on with. The problem here is then it becomes this agency, right? Agency is about meaningful choice, and there's nothing meaningful about that. It's pointless. It doesn't do anything unless there is some fundamental reason for it that we're completely missing. But if that's the case, then it's very, very hidden about what's.
So we talked a little bit about the technique.
Yes, indeed.
So the 3-act structure. So it does have that little bit of pacing. It has that bit at the end where you're being chased by the monster, and that kind of gives you the kind of the slightly.
Indeed, you've got motivation. You've got a little acquisition of means, and you've got a bit at the end. There's a bit of pacing in the sense that the drama does ramp up. It starts low. It's that sort of simple pacing, which doesn't necessarily think about the initial burst of energy you're supposed to have in the pacing curve, which is important, I think, particularly with games. But however, it does follow the more simple pacing graph of having slowly escalating drama that results in a climax. and that is something that's worth.
And I think again, what we're going to expect for 3 weeks' work, and I don't think we're going to expect a complex multiple peaks in the pacing graph, but starting off with a bit of a buzz and then having a lull and then building up to a conclusion, I think that would have been achievable.
Absolutely, and I also think as well they could have used some of that as well to incorporate some of the problems there is with the overly reliant on textual narrative here as well, right? Yeah. If you had an initial bit of the game, which was maybe even a little game where you're just sort of flying the spaceship along, it didn't have to be very complicated, okay? Just be very, very quick and simple, and maybe like small bits of text while you're flying, the parents explaining where you're going and what you're doing, okay? Yeah. You'd make that interactive, you'd solve the discontinuity of that, and you might just inject a little bit of energy into the game at the start, right? And that would be a small amount of effort. It would be a bit more work, I'm not going to lie about that, but it would be a small amount of effort in order to solve those narratological problems.
And it isn't very well woven in with the actual gameplay itself, is it? There is no feedback really.
One of the other things I want to pick up on when we're talking about technique as well, is you've seen with a lot of the Hansel and Gretel games quite a lot of good characterisation going on. Okay, Hansel and Gretel are natural every man or every woman protagonists. Okay, they're vulnerable and at risk the world around them, and their parents are natural narratological antagonists as well, which you can make a lot of. I really don't think this game necessarily made that much of it. I mean, sure, they're aliens, okay, so it's a bit of an abstraction, but they could have easily layered on a little bit more character here in order to make those more identifiable and make a little bit more of it in the story. And I think that maybe it's worth, particularly when you're putting together a very story-led game, to be considering these things.
So I think we've had a fun look at these games. Been a good batch of games. Yeah. I think it's interesting that it's clearly been more challenging, I think, for this one to actually fulfil the brief.
Absolutely, because it's a very specific game that we've been asking for, rather than make something more general with a tutorial. But these are a new set of skills and learning objectives that the students are grappling with.
And again, I think the lesson learnt for the students and for anyone else out there who's kind of writing these games or trying to write games is to keep it simple. Keep it simple, try and do something that's simple but effective. And actually a lot of the games that we saw that worked really well were very simple in terms of their graphics and controls and the rest of it.
Or even the systematic structure, but they made very good use of story, very good use of a story engine. Okay, a little bit of writing and structuring goes a long way.
Absolutely. So that's great. So thanks very much to all the students who submitted games. I hope the feedback we've given you is useful, and we're very much looking forward to the next and final group of games that we're going to look at in the next couple of weeks. Which is on a whole variety of different things around sort of innovation in games and novel techniques. So we'll look forward to seeing that. Thanks very much for listening.
Thank you.
Bye.